Here we go.
Good evening everyone, I'm Nat Adamopoulos and this is Full On Football, the only local TV show that promotes local South Australian football. Well, tonight I'm in the studio on my own, quite the opposite to Mr David Beckham, who had 83,000 fans come out and watch him and his team LA Galaxy take on Sydney FC on Tuesday evening. And true to his name, he didn't let anyone down. He was able to produce his signature bender, as he normally does, to satisfy them all. So it was fantastic to see, and a great goal it was too. Now the question is he the greatest footballer that's ever visited Australia and played here in Australia? Well, I guess if you ask 100 people, you'd probably get 100 different answers. He may not be the best or the greatest footballer that's graced our shores, but he definitely is a phenomenon and a man who generates millions of dollars just from his name alone. And of course, he is a champion footballer. And speaking of champions, that's exactly why I'm here on my own tonight. Earlier on this year, I was fortunate enough to catch up with David Mitchell. Of course, he's now the coach of Perth Glory. And it was on the occasion of him being inducted into the FFA Australian Football Hall of Fame in the Hall of Champions. Now, David was very accommodating. He spent time with us, answered questions, and it's a great insight to look at the man that normally you may not know too much about. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a wonderful opportunity and one that I would like to share with you now. So sit back and watch as we get full on with David Mitchell. First of October 2006, the Football Federation of Australia announced the 9 inductees that were being inducted into the Australian Football Hall of Fame. And tonight we speak to one of those inductees, a player who started off his football career here in South Australia and went on to bigger and better things. He's been inducted into the Hall of Champions, which is the highest honour that a footballer can be given. Welcome, David Mitchell.
Hi Natalie, thank you.
First of all, congratulations on this fantastic acknowledgement of your contributions to football in Australia. I mean, everyone knows what a prestigious honour it is, but what does it mean to you personally?
Thank you. Well, no, it means an awful lot because it means you've been recognised, being a bit of a pioneer within the game. And back in those early days, when a lot of people thought that I would never make it overseas. You know, I had a 14 years of a successful career there, so it was a fantastic career and one that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it's nice to be that people have put my name forward for such a prestigious award.
Let's go back to how it all started. Now, you emigrated over from Glasgow when you were about 6, 7 years old, was that right?
That's right, 6 years old. My 7th birthday is when we arrived in Australia.
And so you started off with the local club Enfield Victoria, was it then, or Enfield City?
It was actually Ingle Farm, but then I grew up and played in the state teams, and then I played for Enfield Victoria when I was 15. And then I was 16, played for the first team. Then I was picked up by Royal Rassic at the time for Adelaide City. And things sort of happened rapidly from there, playing for the Australian youth team and then representing Australia at an early age, and then going on to Sydney City and then heading overseas.
Yeah, when you played over here with Adelaide City, you basically played with the who's who of South Australian football, with people like Johnny Niskel's, Bugsy Niskel's. You played against Adrian Santrat, with Johnny Perrin, Gary Marocchi, Neil McGackie, all of those. I mean, now for a young guy at 17 years of age, was that exciting? Was it daunting, or did you just basically take that all in your stride?
Yeah, it was exciting. I certainly wasn't daunting. It didn't really matter to me who I played against. I sort of that's probably one of the characters of why I made it so far in the game. I didn't sort of go for reputations, although they were great players and good guys. They used to sort of take the mickey at me at the beginning because I was a young kid, and used to make me go in the middle of the circle all the time and try and put the ball through my legs, and which happened often enough as you were a young, experienced guy. But it was tenacious, and the effort that you put into the game, and you wanted to always learn and be a better player. So from that point of view, it was great. It didn't faze me playing against those great players, and it was a privilege to play with them. And certainly Bugsy Niskahus and Johnny used to come and pick me up from my house because they lived quite near to me, and drive me to training because I didn't have a car in those days. So it was nice.
Well, 1981 was a huge year for you because you basically were chosen to represent Australia in the Under-20 FIFA World Youth Championships. You also named the Under-21 NSL Player of the Year, and you said you were in the running to win the actual Player of the Year, but because you went overseas, you missed 4 games, so you didn't get enough votes in that respect there. And also you debuted for the Socceroos at just 18. I mean, how were you able to manage all that and really still stay grounded as a young lad?
Well, it was, as I said, it happened all very quickly, and you sort of really didn't have time to have a big head. And my family were constantly behind me, and they always said that always keep your feet in the ground. You never know, it could all fall in a heap all of a sudden, and it's always nice to be nice. So you've got to be polite to people and take it in your stride. It's a great achievement, and you've deserved it because you've worked so hard. Not only did I train, with Adelaide City and all the great players that you mentioned, I did do some training with a friend of mine, Ian Mackay at the time, at Enfield, and we used to hire the gymnasium at Strathmont, and we used to hire that 8 o'clock from 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock in the morning. So we had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we used to develop our touch and our skills ourselves, and that was all off our own back. So we had the desire to make it at that level, and hopefully it would have paid off. And fortunately for myself, it did pay off.
So obviously good high self-discipline.
High self-discipline, you have a goal that you focus on, and you work on the things that you aren't good at, and obviously the things that you are good at you maintain.
That's terrific. Now you played a total of 108 NSL matches, scoring 33 goals. Who was your toughest opponent in that league?
Toughest opponent I played against in those days was probably a guy called Steve Blair, who was in the youth team with me, but he used to want to kick me, and Jim Tansey was also a difficult player, who was a left back with Heidelberg at the time. Those two are very difficult to play against, but hopefully they didn't get too much better of me. But yeah, no, it was a great time, and one that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Now from there, your national representation, your Socceroo career lasted basically for about 12 years, debuting in 81 at just 18 years of age. You played a total of 44 games, scoring 15 goals, which included 29 full internationals for 11 goals. You were at the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, and you were also the first Australian to play in 4 World Cup campaigns. So that was 82, 86, 90 and 94.
Yeah.
That was amazing because, I mean, players hadn't done that before. It
was very difficult, Natalie, at certain times that when I was overseas playing, to come back and play for Australia, because I was a professional playing overseas at that elite level, and there wasn't many players over there at the time doing that. And when I came back and played, it was became like a sort of a part-time situation, with all the players were playing part-time and you were full-time, and it was sometimes difficult to adjust because I took my football so seriously and I was a professional, and yet a lot of guys, it was still a part-time hobby for them, even at national level. And although you mentioned the NSL before, that I only played 106 games, that's practically because I played 14, 15 years overseas in Europe. That otherwise that would have been 500-600 games, I'm sure. And likewise with the caps for Australia, 44 is a lot of caps, but it probably could have been over 100 because I spanned 4 World Cup campaigns and started when I was 18 and finished when I was 32. Had I sort of stayed in Australia, I would have probably broken the record, but my career was overseas, and that's what I strive for.
Now you mentioned that you were the first of many times, and you could be called the man of many firsts, because you basically went where no Aussie had gone before. You were the first Aussie to play in the Scottish Premier League, you were the first Aussie to play in the German Bundesliga, you were the first Aussie to play in the Dutch Premier League, and you were also the first Socceroo to score in a European club.
competition. Do you remember that goal?
I do remember it, and I've also played in Turkey as well. I think it was the first Australian to play in Turkey as well. That wasn't been mentioned, but yeah, I do remember that. It was against Porto FC, and you know, I was a through on with the goalkeeper, and actually the goalkeeper was favourite for it, but I think he actually he dived in too early, and I just got a toe poke to it, and I went round him and slotted it in the net. So it was a fantastic feeling. Yeah.